Let's drop back a little bit and go back to the germ theory of disease. Just to remember what we know as facts. The germs theory of disease says that when a germ is present in the organism, it causes a disease to arise. Okay, colds and the flu are the most typical kinds of examples. The problem with the theory is the anomalous conditions that are present everywhere, which is that everybody doesn't get the disease, even though they may encounter the germ. And the question is, why is that? Well, one of the things I pointed out before was that one of the things that we do when we inoculate against childhood diseases is we cause a situation to arise where the immune system isn't exercised, just like the physical body. The immune system needs to be exercised. And because part of the organism of the human being is spiritual in nature, it needs to be exercised too. It plays a role. It's called the etheric or life body. You know, this etheric or life body is part of what reaches out and reacts to the presence of the dangerous germ and deals with it. We call it the immune system. And of course the materialist scientist will find all kinds of chemical things going on. And he'll say, well, hogwash and bad science and horrible medicine and quacks and all kinds of stuff. But the thing is to actually be scientific. And if you're really rigorous in your science, you'll realize that you can't afford to be prejudiced by your assumptions or assume that natural science in the state it is today knows everything. There's a lot of anomalous conditions, and all of those anomalous conditions add up to, particularly with regard to medicine, that we don't have answers that we think are completely answered answers. So why does a person get a cold or the flu and another person not? Well, one reason can be that their immune system is healthier, that their ethereal body is healthier. Another reason could be that their astral body is healthier. Maybe their emotional life is healthier. People with psychological problems can be prone to disease, and I don't mean psychological problems in the sense of mental illness. I mean psychological problems in the sense that their emotional life is screwed up. Now, we have, all of us has probably had this experience, and certainly people in our family or other people we know have had this experience. You go through a period of stress, and during this period of stress, you are sort of at war with things that are going on in your environment, maybe at your job. And you put a lot of intense psychological effort into meeting the demands of your job, and this may go on for a long period of time. And of course we get good examples of this when we look at soldiers coming home from war. Once you walk away from the stress, that force of will, that psychic or psychological force of will by which you manage the stress, is allowed to collapse. That is, the ego part of your organism. The I says, okay, I can relax now. I can let go of this. It's over. Well, what happens? Well, what frequently happens when people are finished being severely stressed, whether it's in a married situation or a job situation or the horrible things that we ask with soldiers, they get sick. Okay? They get psychologically or physically or both ill. And it isn't because there's a bug in the environment. It's because their organization, the totality of their organization has been overtaxed. It's now weak, And in this weakened conditions, it's susceptible to the bug. So when you have a bug go through a school, you can pretty much bet that the people that caught the bug were weak in some way in terms of their total organism, their total organization, including the spiritual parts. Now, all I'm saying here is not to give you like total answers, because we're in a situation in terms of the advancement of human knowledge where we're ignorant of a whole lot of stuff, and we're particularly ignorant of the relationship of the spirit to the material processes. And there's a whole lot in our social order that absolutely wants that not to be true. And they'll go to great extent to keep the spirit out. People in the field of biology, some famous biologist, I don't know who it was, might have been Stephen Jay Gould or somebody like that, gave a talk in which he said basically, we can't let the spirit in anywhere. And there's a lot of places in biology and medicine where people paying attention to what they're observing and being good scientists want to put the spirit in there because they see stuff that they can't explain otherwise. But there's this horrible resistance because it's like a castle. You know, once you let it in anywhere, once materialistic science and of course mainstream medicine lets the spirit in, it's in. And they have to rethink everything that they're doing. And a whole lot of people would rather not do that. And they're scared of it, you know. Oh, God, what's the physicist? Wrote the book Contact that was made into the movie. Anyway, he wrote a book called The Demon Haunted World. And he was really worried because he saw in the manifestations in the existence of New Age thinking that all kinds of ideas from the past were creeping in, and he thought we'd got rid of them, or had hoped. There's a whole bunch of people in science that don't want to open those doors anymore. They don't want to be there to be invisible boogeyman around the corner. You know, they're worried about churches going crazy and all kinds of other things, and they're also worried about the loss to the human being of their reason. If we were to go toward the spirit through a process in which we abandon reason, that would be a horrible thing. And you're not going to get from me in this on becoming a wizard, on becoming a wise person, any kind of idea that we should abandon reason. We should actually do the opposite. We should get better at it. Okay? We should get better at doing reason. That's why I urge the reading, for example, of Owen Barfield. There's a guy who is a master of reason, and he's a master of these problems that we have in natural science and in a lot of other fields, because reason made some assumptions and did some weird stuff, and we've gotten into our systems of thought things that really don't help us understand things. And a lot of this stuff manifested right in the health situation, okay? So I hope I've raised some questions and said some general things, because in the next video I'm going to start talking about books.